Okay, first of all, got it right?
Yeah,
right?
Unfortunately.
Yeah, it's scary.
Well, you mentioned who's the czar. That's obvious. President Obama. Yeah, that's the czar.
Yeah. Well, you absolutely do have it right. The Congress has written laws that require the secretaries of each of the branches to serve notice as to what they're going to do, to be transparent with the documents, and to answer to Congress. The czars don't have to serve any notice, have no transparency, and answer to no one except the president.
When I heard Neil Cavuto say the other day, I've been trying to get a hold of him, I realized, oh my gosh, nobody is answering any questions. And then this morning, Gretchen,
I'd like to get a hold of the car czar, too.
Oh.
Never did I think personally that I would need to get a hold of him, but now I do. Because my parents have owned a General Motors dealership in Anoka, Minnesota for 90 years, and they were terminated last week, and they would like to know why. They would like to know why from the car czar.
No, but nobody's telling you. Did you get like 13 pages or something of notice? Did it have any answer?
It said that you will no longer be a part of the new General Motors. Apparently there was criteria. But let me tell you this, Glenn. They haven't lost money. They are a profitable operation. Their objective they met at 103%. You can't go higher than that. And yet they are being terminated. There are 80 employees who will not have jobs anymore. My parents lay awake at night worrying about those employees.
Okay. First of all, Judge, how can they get away with this? We're waiting for SCOTUS. We're waiting for the Supreme Court to go in and say, you can't do the other thing with the bond, but that doesn't even address the czar issue.
If the Supreme Court hears the appeal on the Chrysler matter, it will presumably lay down guidelines for all other bankruptcies, including General Motors, and will have to order that bankruptcy judges follow the Constitution, and people like Gretchen's parents have a right to be heard. If Barney Frank, to whom you made reference earlier, wants to be able to call the car czar and say, tell GM not to close any dealerships in my district, that is blatantly unconstitutional when Gretchen's parents are closed for reasons that they haven't even been told.
Okay, you've talked to another dealership, your family has talked to another dealership?
Many. They all had a meeting yesterday in the state of Minnesota, but here is the ironic thing. There was a dealership that was closed in the first round in the metro area of Minneapolis. That person was able to get a meeting with GM executives last week for an hour and a half, and lo and behold, Monday night, that dealership is back in business. Now, you tell me that this isn't about who you know and who you can speak to.
No,
I thought it was about
the government involved or was GM?
Both.
There was government at that meeting?
There was government intervention with a political person who was able to set up that meeting. But I thought this was supposed to be that you were closing dealerships because they weren't performing.
Listen, here's the deal. General Motors, AIG, Citigroup, and maybe Bank of America. These are entities now that are controlled by the government, and they're conduits for different things. One of the things that wouldn't happen last week that wasn't even talked about was General Motors lending a private equity fund in Beverly Hills $2 billion to buy Delphi. This is nuts.
Wait. Say that again? What?
General Motors.
Hear that?
General Motors, $2 billion to a private equity group, $2 billion so that they could buy Delphi out of bankruptcy. That's what they're doing. Just like AIG was a conduit to pay $100 billion to European banks that we didn't have to pay $100 billion to give Goldman Sachs an extra $12 billion.
This is, you know what, we should have known when President Obama was a community organizer. This is Acorn on a governmental scale. This is shifting the money and playing a shell game with the money.
Here's the unconstitutional aspect to all of this. The government is making up the rules as it's going along. Gretchen's parents haven't been given a set of standards as to why they were canceled. The other people weren't given a set of standards as to why they were reinstated just because they knew a senator from Minnesota. We weren't even told ahead of time that taxpayer dollars was going to be used to buy Delphi. So some czar somewhere is saying yes to this, no to that, and that subjective judgment is against the law.
And it gets worse, though, Glenn. It gets worse, because by Friday, terminated dealers by GM have to sign what's called a wind-down agreement. And if they don't sign it, they have a gun to their head. They will not get any warranties on any of the vehicles that are currently sitting in their lots, which the judge tells me is illegal.
Federal law requires GM to fulfill the obligations under the warranty, and these gun-to-the-head contracts can't change that, and no court would enforce them.
And they have to close immediately. If it already wasn't bad enough,
how many cars does your family have on the lot? What do you have? 2 million, 4 million, 5 million?
$4.5
million. $4.5 million in product, and you can't sell them as of Friday? What are they going to do?
If you don't sign the agreement. And also,
What are you going to do with
there's
it?
also a gag order in the agreement. A gag order that says you cannot speak to anybody other than your employees unless you get GM's consent.
Is fascism. I'm sorry to say it, America. Am I wrong?
Well, you're absolutely right, but here's the thing. We were told it was going to happen. We were told that there was going to be redistribution of wealth, and that's all we... When you see a secured lender get 29 cents on the dollar, and a union, a non-secured lender, get 43 cents, plus 55% of the company, that's called redistribution of wealth. It was promised.
Help me out. I was trying to think of a way to be able to explain this. You'll be able to help.
Okay, I look like I'm the one who probably can play with those.
This is the way our economy works. This is the way, let's say, General Motors works. Okay, what they have is you have the bondholders. They're the first in line.
Right.
That's really the engine of our economy.
The secured bondholders.
Secure bondholders. That money's coming from all over the world.
Right.
This is the engine of any big company.
The law puts them first in line.
Correct. Okay. Then you have what? Stockholders are next, or just
Preferred shareholders, unsecured bondholders.
okay, good. And then you have
The stockholders,
everybody else.
right.
Okay. What we've done here, if I'm not mistaken, is these people are gone. They're out.
Right.
And these people have been put here.
Actually, you needed another train. The unions.
Use some
The
M&Ms.
unions, they were put in front of this. The workers were put in front. Yes.
There you go.
There you go.
Now, let me ask you this, America. How long is that train going to run?
Well, how about this? When's the next time a company in trouble is going to be able to go and raise money from secured lenders?
Nobody.
And if they do, it's going to cost them a lot more than it should cost them.
Look, if they don't change this rule, no one is going to put their money here.
Do you know how long that guy's been in first place in American history? Secured bondholders come first? Since the beginning of the country, since we started to have a stock exchange and commercial transactions, and with no action of the Congress, no action of the state of legislature of Delaware, where GM and Chrysler are incorporated, a single federal judge bullied by the White House has changed 230 years of law and economic procedure.
Charles said that we knew we were getting ourselves into this, that President Obama said this is what he was going to do, but I don't think he said that there was going to be an assault on private enterprise. I submit to you that this is one of the most unpatriotic things.
Gretchen,
to shut down profitable businesses.
He is a guy who his whole life is riddled with Marxists. He is a progressive. And this is what progressives do. This is what they did in World War II. They kept us in the Depression for 10 years. And nobody wants to listen to it. Everybody wants to live in their pie-in-the-sky world where, gosh, we can't be that. He's telling us this. And there's much more worse to come. In 15 minutes, we're going to do a break with these guys who are experts on the progressive movement.
The bottom line,
if you want to know what the future is, look to the past. I'll show it to you. It's frightening.
Glenn, I think the president, really, his goal is, in his mind, he wants to redress what he considers wrongs of yesteryear. And again, like, for instance, the wages. The paid czar is a guy who really, we got to be really afraid of. Because, you know, bailout companies now, if you took TARP money, the most money your CEO can make is $400,000. They want to make that the policy across the board.
What does that mean?
Because we have this pay gap, right? The average person and the CEO. Instead of doing it where we bring this up, which should be the goal of the president, we want to bring this down.
Right.
To close the gap.
But what does it mean that across the board? Anybody who
in other words, even if you didn't take TARP money,
so any company, this company.
If I'm running a major corporation, I have to worry that within a year or so, the government's going to dictate how much I make.
This is
the Interstate Commerce Clause in the Constitution. They'll argue if the salary of the CEO adversely affects interstate commerce, they can regulate it. There's no such opinion in the history of the country that supports that, but that's what they'll do.
Okay. Now listen, America, when I believe it was the show that we got that. Wow.
That's a big Fiat.
It
is.
No,
I thought the Fiats were tiny cars.
I know, no.
That's a huge one.
No, they got to do something, for regular people. So anyway, when we got this, I said on that show, nobody's going to buy this. Nobody is going to buy this. So you watch. They're going to make all kinds of incentives, and you're going to be on the hook for even more. Guess what just was passed in the House? Cash for clunkers. We're now giving tax breaks for people to go out and buy a new car.
But to your point, though, if it doesn't work, this is what's really going to happen. If we decide that we don't want to buy itty-bitty cars that we haven't bought for the last 20 years, they're going to raise gasoline prices on us.
Oh, yes, they will. By the way, just so you know, America, that's $4 billion today. $4 billion.
Cannot compete with the government. They'll put Ford out of business.